What have you got? Very nice.
Oh, let me have them, they're mine.
Clematis. Honeysuckle. Go to the back.
Not in the back of your car, in the back garden.
At long last, the transformation of Cherry Tree Cottage was almost complete, and Debbie and Brian would soon be enjoying the fruits of their labour once the planting up was done.
Football.
In this whole back area, we're mainly going to have it veg, aren't we? But we want it to be good looking veg. And so if you add things like a herb hedge, will give it a bit of structure. Things like the bays can go in the back. And then these cones and the box balls, I thought we'd do a fringe of ball cone, ball cone, ball cone, ball cone, all the way around. And then we'll have the veg behind and amongst them. And that will just give you some framework for the winter.
Oh, God, the light on there. In that corner there, behind the bay.
Yeah. I don't think you could have a kitchen garden without having a bay tree, not only because the leaves are so aromatic, they really do smell really good, but also because they provide a lot of structure. You've got this lovely evergreen form all the year round. They do need clipping up, obviously, to get that nice shape, and a good time to do that is after the spring frost, sort of June, that sort of time. And this one seems to me a bit sort of squash looking, so I'm just going to raise the canopy and then it will just look a bit more shapely. It's not a fast grower, but it's easy to keep in shape. This is a great climber. This is Vitis cognitia, and it produces huge leaves like dinner plates, literally this big, and they colour up to a beautiful purple red in the autumn. It's named Vitis. It is actually a vine, and it does produce little black berries. But if you eat them, oh, they are bitter, very, very bitter. But in Japan, they make a most fantastic drink out of those berries. Nicest drink I've ever had, a sort of bittersweet cherry taste, lovely. When you're planting a plant, one of the most important things is to soak it before you plant it. So we actually put this in a bucket of water, so all the air bubbles came out of the compost, and we know then it's nice and moist. Also, when they come, they often have lichens and moss on the top and weeds. And so however good a garden centre is, I think it's often worth just clearing off the top so they don't then spread throughout your garden. This climate is very vigorous, so you just need to prune it back in sort of midsummer. So you just contain it to the space you want it to. But it really is a fantastic plant and well worth growing. One of the best things about gardening is the seasonal variation, and you cannot beat bulbs for getting that real hit of colour in spring. One of my favourite bulbs, Fritillaria imperialis aurora. Very easy to grow, they'll grow in sun or shade, they like a free draining soil, and they'll go on for year after year after year. This looks so exotic, you cannot believe how easy it is to grow. Another plant I always have masses of in my garden is a tulip. I haven't actually grown this one, which is Viking. It's a hybrid, it's a double. I'll plant them very deeply. I'll have at least 150 millimetres of soil on top of the bulb, because that way they're more likely to come on year after year. But with these, we'll be lucky to get 2 or 3 years more flowers out of them. If we wanted to use something like the species, the Fosteriana, then we'd get more still. But next year, they'll come up and they'll flower, but they'll probably be slightly smaller, with slightly smaller heads on them, but I think that almost adds to their charm. Another plant I grow at home is this Erythronium pagoda, and these are fantastic. Again, when they're in the soil, they're bigger. The leaves are much bigger than this. They'll be marbled, and they increase year after year, and they're not too picky about the situation. My soil is very dry, and they're competing with ivy, and yet they naturalise really well. But the best conditions is a moist, well-draining soil in dapple shade. Some wonderful plants to really spice up the colour.
we got here?
Ooh, more veg. Kale. It's kale.
Broccoli, purple sprouting, lovely. Come again, pick it again. Had them all beautifully grown specially for us. Real specimen plants, look at that.
Beautiful, aren't they?
Very nice.
They match the house. Everything's lively. It's great.
Look at that.
Ooh, peppers.
Lovely.
Great.
Look at those.
Look at that. God.
Whew.
Straight into the greenhouse for these then.
Very nice, yes. Let's take them in their trays.
What have we got here?
Aubergine.
Greenhouse.
Yeah.
Please. This is the olive tree, one of my favourite trees. And you might be worried that it's a bit too far north to grow this tree, but in fact it's far hardier than people think, especially if you grow it in a very sheltered position, such as this, and especially if it has really good sharp drainage. They're very good tempered trees because I've seen huge olive trees growing out of tiny crevices in rocks, so they need very little growing medium at all, and this will do perfectly in this pot. And will it fruit here? Are we going to get olives for our gin and tonics? Well, with a bit of luck in a few years' time, as it's so sunny here, I think they might just get one or two.
There was just one more item on Brian and Debbie's wish list, a water feature for their tiny conservatory area. We built a very simple structure from concrete blocks, which we covered with 6mm plywood. We then lined the inside with protective cushioning and then a waterproof membrane. To hold the coverings in place and provide a nicely rounded edge to the feature, we used wooden battens, mitered in the corners and chiselled out in the centre so everything would fit snugly into place. With our pump installed, it was time to turn this rather ugly-looking tank into an authentic lead water feature. We used Code 4 lead cladding as an inexpensive but very effective way of adding a touch of class to the garden. But do be careful, as lead is toxic and you must wash your hands or wear gloves when working with it. A rather fetching mask, some woven hazel, and this tiny area was transformed. There was just time for a quick general clear-up and a few last-minute touches to the coping. As this was to double up as seating, it was important to countersink all screws and then carefully fill in with wooden pellets. Lovely attention to detail. And at long last, it was time for Brian and Debbie to assess the complete overhaul of Cherry Tree Cottage.
It's been quite a slog, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely, but well worth it though.
We didn't realise it would be this much hard work, but you know, you've nearly killed us off, but we got there in the end.
But now with this front fence, it really ties it all in together and shows off this belongs to Cherry Tree, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely, yes.
So I think it works really well.
Nice cottagey detail, isn't it?
Indeed, yes.
The colours work well. Picking up on your lilac behind, I think it's a lovely colour now. When I first came, I wasn't so sure. I think it was partly because you had the wooden windows, but now we've painted those whitish. The whole lot pulls together beautifully. And then the conservatory. Now, I think that works so well. Lots of privacy and it looks really nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely, because I mean, we've got a driveway. At the end of that driveway, we've got another garden. And it's a part of the garden that we sort of hadn't had any plans for.
But this is just the icing on the cake.
Oh, it is,
The
definitely.
real pièce de résistance is out at the back.
Yeah.
Should we go and have a look?
Yeah, let's go.
It works so much better, doesn't it, having this flat area of paving here now?
Oh, it does, yeah. We had this concrete slope that I didn't know what to do with. I was just going to deck it.
It's because it was just a thoroughfare, wasn't it? But actually by flattening it out and enclosing it with the trellis, it's made it into a place you actually want to stop and rest and enjoy being in.
It is. I mean, it's a complete transformation. It's absolutely amazing, this part of the garden.
Well, it means that we can come out the kitchen door and use this as a room.
And these new slabs mixed in with the reclaimed, I think, has worked quite nicely, hasn't it?
And of course the salvage, which we both love.
Oh yes, it ties in with the cottage, and yeah, they do work well together.
And taking them through into the flower beds, stretches the whole space out a bit, really, doesn't it?
And just randomly placing things on the walls and at the sides, it just adds to it. There's just so much interest in this part of the garden. You just need to sit for a while and take it all in.
So I suppose this is your breakfast garden.
Yes, it would be, yes.
So should we go and have a look at your main garden?
Yeah, come on, because that's my garden.
Oh, nice. It's really hard to remember what it was like before, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
But now you've got a great little mini ornamental kitchen garden. And we've put in some instant veg for you just to get you going, give you a head start.
Yeah.
But I've also put in some structure, some evergreens, the bay, the box. So even in the winter, it will look great.
There's plenty of space for me to potter. I've also got my dinner in the borders. And I have got the greenhouse, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yes, I'm really pleased with that. And I thought I was being a bit too ambitious putting the greenhouse and the arbour in this quite small space. But because we've actually sunken them into the beds, they just work quite well. They don't look overpowering at all, do they?
No, not
and
at all.
it does increase the whole scope of your garden because you've got a lovely covered arbour to use as well.
Yeah.
I love the little tent that you put in there, so you can use it even when it's rainy. You can pop in there.
In the evenings as well, if it's chilly. Yeah.
And you've got a great pair, Debbie, I have to say.
I wish I did have.
I mean, I like the detail on the trellis work on the arbour, and it continues onto the trellis work as well. The woven willow works really well.
It really blocks out next door, doesn't it? Quite
Yes,
nicely,
it
that line,
does,
yes.
And it ties in with the hazel, which looks absolutely brilliant. And it is so simple and easy to do, which I was very surprised about.
And I think by actually sinking this paved area, it gives you so much more privacy, which is always a great thing to have.
Yes.
And of course, you then have raised beds, which are much, much more productive because you're not walking over them all the time, which is a great fact.
Yes.
A lot easier on the back as well.
Oh, you poor old thing, Brian, you poor old thing.
And the coping on top is brilliant, isn't it? Because it's just sort of pulled it all together. It looks very cottagey.
I mean, I don't do any gardening, so I like sitting in the garden. So there's plenty of places for me to have a sit down.
However many people come round, you've always got somewhere to sit.
Absolutely.
And as the evenings draw out, there's lots of opportunity for entertaining activities.
That's right. Yes.
So you'll be having lots of parties, won't you?
Yes, we will.
And you'll be asking me to do